Yo, guys, what is going on? So, just got back from Orlando Card Fest Nationals, and as you can probably tell just by the title and my Twitter posts and stuff, I managed to get second place, which is a first for me at Nationals. I've never really done that great in Nationals level events before, so this is a huge accomplishment, and I really, really can't even believe it, to be honest. And before we even get into this, I just want to say shout out to all my homies from back home from my locals and everyone who helped me test and kind of decide on the deck I wanted to play. And there was just so much love and throughout the audience and people I played. Everyone I played throughout Swiss and Top Cut was really cool, really chill. Played a lot of friendly fire as well, but in it, so it's bittersweet in a sense that we're knocking each other out. But in another way is also really cool because it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity. But yeah, so I did actually get some really cool mats that I'd love to show off to you guys, but my friend has them and he actually has not got back home yet. But instead, I do have a beautiful top 16 Vmon I can show you. This is the BT11 one, if I'm not mistaken. So I believe this was the top 16 prize. I have the second place Aero Vidramon prize card, which I don't actually know if this is like metallic or it looks like just a regular card. You could actually play this if you wanted to. Not that I'm going to, but it'd be a cool flex, I guess. And then we've got the second place trophy, which man, this just looks so sick. I like shout out to Bandai and Play TCG and everyone who's involved in the event. Their quality, like the level of quality of these events was like Pokemon level. Like, dude, it was amazing. Like, stream was amazing. Commentators were great. Event ran smoothly. It was great. But yeah, so this is gonna be a little bit of a long video. If you just want my list, that's circulating on Digimon Meta or Eggman's website. On my Twitter, maybe actually, I don't know, but you can find it somewhere else. But my point is, if you want like an actual in-depth guide of like what I faced, I actually have like my matchup spread written out and why I chose certain cards, and that's what we're here for. So anyways, so let's just talk about the deck first, and I'll get into the matchups later on. So the deck actually really isn't anything that special for Sunomon. It's pretty normal. This is a pretty standard Levia build, so I'm not really gonna like, I mean, we'll just kind of go at it one card at a time. So of course, four Gobbly, three Gazis is the best floodgate. This is like the best rookie you want underneath your stack. This is the best floodgate. Mirage was the deck to beat going into this format, I think, for everyone. So you definitely needed three. I considered four. I'm not playing the Delta package. If I was, I would have played four. But this it's just good against literally like everything, not even just Mirage, like against the Mirror, against Lord Knight, against Purple Hybrid, literally against everything. Gauzy's insane. And then the one of rookies are all either utility or other floodgates. So Lopmon X being able to, for example, boost your Levia to not die to security threats. Labramon being able to recycle your pieces, such as your Dog Engine, as well as Anubis most prominently. Gabumon X being able to search half the deck, basically, especially your Protoforms. And then Psychmon, which we know came up quite a bit, or didn't come up quite a bit, unfortunately, in the final round, is for 7 Demon Lords. And just like other rogue stuff, I actually played a bug, so that kind of comes up just against like random stuff that reduces play cost, Death X, and whatnot. But yeah, that's the rookie lineup. The level 4 lineup is pretty normal as well. The best one going to be your Doberman X antibody. So this is the one that lets you cycle. And then if you got X antibody or Dober underneath it, then you get the retaliation. Inherit is broken. Like, this card is so overtuned. If you were gonna ask me what I would hit in this deck, I think from a fair standpoint, I would probably say either this one, but I'd probably say this guy. We'll get to that in a little bit. There can be an argument made for Dobrex, but this card is just really good. It becomes a 1 cost Evo over Gobbly, it becomes a 0 cost Evo over Gobbly if you have Protoform. And then just Retail is really good, especially in combination with the regular Doberman because it gives blockers. So against a lot of decks, being able to set up a big Retail blocker with your Levia stack, or I mean, even if you're playing Anubis and then you're going into like this and then giving it Retail with the X, just a Retail blocker that you can recur every turn is really insane, especially against decks like Magna, which that's one of your hardest matchups, which I've actually played. And then just in general, just being able to wall out attacks. Purple Hybrid, you don't want them to get off their end of attack, so having a Retail blocker is really nice. And then the last champion, there's actually, yeah, there's only 8 champions in this deck, is Octomon. I was originally playing, I think in my Card Fest list, I was playing Garurumon X. which I really, really like, and I wanted more cycles just because, and then also just having 9 champions is a little bit better than 8. It's really sketchy. It's like the bare minimum. But like honestly, it was like fine throughout the most of the day. There's like maybe a couple times where I was like, oh, I really wish I had like another Digimon X here. Or I'd like literally no other way to cycle. But Octomon's too important to cut. These guys are too important to cut. This card like single handedly like lets you combo if you've got Biting Crush or um Levia X like set up in the trash. So this is just definitely like you have to play this card at the very least one. So my other friends were testing too, which I don't disagree with, but I think as a one of it is like fine. You can recur it with Scramble if you like really need to if that comes up, or maybe Anubis or something. But yeah, so that's rookies, champions. And then so let's talk about the level 5s. Of course, is going to be the best one in the deck. To no one's surprise, is going to be Cerberusmon X Antibody. This card is ridiculous for many reasons. Number one, even if you don't have X Antibody underneath it, which is one of the reasons why this it's one of the flaws of this deck, of course, is being very reliant on your X Antibody protoform. But even without that, you do get to just cycle through your deck. You cycle a lot with this deck, being able to trigger your draws off your Suno, off of your Dobermon if you play something like in the instance of Cerberusmon X, as well as your Dobermon X. So you are drawing lots and lots of cards, which I absolutely love. But obviously it's bad against Mirage, but that's why this is here, because the best play against Mirage is to be able to go this, you trigger it on Digivolve, draw a discard, and then as a part of that effect, you then get to use the on play, which is to immediately play Gazi. Then their Mirage will trigger, it'll eat up its memory gain, and then you can go about your plays from there. So obviously this plus Gazi is really good. Just being able to bring back, again, any of your utility rookies. If you want to go for security, you'll bring back this. If you want to recur stuff or search, you've got options. So that's one of the things I love about this deck, is you can play tons of different level 3s. My card fest list was playing Siakamon. Siakamon's another really good one. You can experiment with more Labras. There's lots of different options. I think for this meta, these were just the ones I wanted to play, but there's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It just depends on the meta, I think. But yeah, this card's insane. Being able to spawn, cycle, and then spawn a rookie, and then gain back like advantage off of summoning the rookie, being able to then like you're evolving for 2 off protoform, but usually it's for 1 because you've got this guy, and then you're drawing like 1 to 2 cards if you got this plus the egg. And then gaining another memory maybe if you got Gobblemon. So it's just like so much insane value. It also pairs especially well with the Rush Cerberusmon. This card's insane. You cannot ever cut this card. I think it comes up a lot. Being able to Digivolve this, grabbing back either this or any of the other dogs that you're missing, or even Anubis again. If you see 1 Anubis, you see 4. And then being able to give Rush, because there's a lot of turns you're making like double stack. Like your first stack will be like Cerberus, X, play out a rookie, give the rookie rush, and then like go into like an Octo or a Dragomon to force them to play something, triggering Levia X to go for a bunch of security checks or something like that. So yeah, obviously those are all really good. 2 Dragomon, I wanted to play 3, but there's no room. 2 is fine. This is basically just to force your opponent to play something by card effect if they're trying to play around your Biting Crushes and your Levia X's, because they don't want to play by card effect, but you make them play. But occasionally, you know, you need to be careful, because sometimes you can be in a board state where maybe they're careful about not putting rookies in their trash. So maybe you need to swing into security a little bit to get that there. Or being able to make sure you can clear it, because sometimes, like, if you've got Levia X set up, Levia X only pops a 3/5/7, maybe they'll play back a level 4 to dodge that, so maybe you need to set up a 7th Lightning or something to effectively clear the board. But yeah, of course, this is really good as well. And then the level 6s, to no one's surprise, like I said, this build is pretty standard. 3 Levia, just really, really good at clearing boards, gaining memory, sec +1. Like, what's not to love? It's removal, it's aggro, it's everything you want in a boss monster. And then his big brother is going to be Levia X. This card's insane in so many ways. Again, even more security checks, even more pressure, and then being able to control the board as well as interact with tamers. Purple Hybrid is one of your hardest matchups, and I played a decent amount throughout the tournament, and being able to control those tamers so they can't clear your board, because one of the bad things about this deck, I mean, it's out of your control, but because you're purple, and if you're playing in a Purple Hybrid, they can very easily clear your board with the Duskmon Velvet combo, because if you've got like stack plus like level 4 lower purple, they can kill this to kill this, and then you just lose like 2 full things, and they don't really have to commit too much to that play. It's just evolving a Duskmon and evolving a Velgar. Like it's pretty disgusting. So you definitely need some answers for Purple Hybrid, for Mirage. Getting rid of their Thomas's Mem Setters, choking them is really good. Being able to clear Floodgates. As you notice, I'm not playing Deltamon in this build. Now, I don't think Deltamon is necessarily bad. I just felt like I wanted to make this as linear as possible, if that makes sense. Like, but at the same time, not like what I mean is like Deltamon's really good, right? But like when you're digivolving into Deltamon, you're foregoing your digivolution into Dobermon and Dobermon X, and so you're foregoing the drawing and the memory gain and the cycle and the retaliation and whatnot. And while yeah, you get a blocker inherited, it's also a 3-cost evolve over anything that's not Gazi. So it makes opening Gazi like okay, so it's like a 2-cost, but then you don't get the benefit of playing Gobbly because then you don't get the memory gain off anything. I mean, I guess like again over Gobbly, it's like fine because it effectively becomes a 2-cost, but it's one more expensive than Dobermon X is my point. And so I kind of just decided to, I think you either commit to that package, play like 2 to 3, or you just don't play it at all. And I decided to not play it at all, and it worked out. And I shout out to Yuxo over in EU because I talked to him a decent amount about like kind of the thought process behind that, and he was doing the same thing. He's like, you can kind of adjust your game plan based on what your opponent has. You can evolve level 5 in the back, clearing their floodgates, their Modokis, their Shiakos, and whatnot with the Levias. So yeah, those boss monsters really, really insane. Of course, the best card ever created is going to be Anubismon. This card probably shouldn't exist, but I don't know. I didn't win, so surely surely Bandai says, yeah, you know what, we'll hit 7 Demon Lords instead. But yeah, this card's ridiculous. Playing out literally anything in the deck. You can play out Leviamon, pop a bunch of stuff, play out your Dober to give block, or play out Drago to force a play, get another level 3, popping 2 level 5 or lowers off Anubis because it's not once per turn, playing out your Sykes, playing out your Searchers, playing out your Floodgates. You have so much utility in this deck. So in one sense, this deck is linear because you're just kind of trying to draw a bunch of cards and evolve up into a stack. But in another sense, it's very toolboxy because you actually have quite a bit of freedom in what you can recur off of your Dragos or your Anubises, or how you set up your Levy interactions and stuff like that. And then, of course, the best level 7 in the game is going to be Shine Greymon Ruin Mode. This card needs no introduction, has ruined many people's days, and just came up in clutch so much, especially against Mirage. This card's insane. Of course, Mirage will always pretty much want to sit on that rookie in the breeding area, so being able to just lock them out for 2 turns, or force them to evolve up into a level 5 inoptimally so they don't get all the memory gain and the Huanku on play and stuff like that is really good as well. So yeah, this is just insane. Against Angels as well, this didn't come up. This came up in testing, but there's like a really sick play you can do against Angels where this helps out a lot. If you've got like a Cerberus stack with like a Levy or something, and then like this is a lot of setup. I'm not saying this happens very often, but in testing this happened like once or twice, where you could go like Digivolve Ruin Mode minus 5,000, and then swing popping your Ruin Mode unsuspend minus 10,000 to their board, so they are unable to ace you, and their Domini and all their blockers that are left over are very, very small, so you can be like they basically won't be able to block very easily with that. So yeah, Ruin Mode just very good for many, many reasons. Option cards, not really anything to say about these, just your boosts, your protoforms, very necessary, your Abiding Crushes, which is insane, and I didn't see in the finals as much as I would like to, but it is what it is. Obviously really need that for Demon Lords, for Takumi Kazuchi, even for Mirage. It's really good stopping Huankus and whatnot. 7th Lightnings to, I mean, not only clear board, but also just prevent deck out a lot of times, because you cycle so much, and sometimes your opponent is like, oh, I'm just going to let him deck himself out, but then you just go Levy X and put this back, and you're chilling. And then the new addition to the deck is going to be 1 Scramble. This card was ridiculous every time I saw it. It's basically like a +1 memory because you're evolving a 3-cost for a 2-cost basically, and then you get to recur things. And then there's a lot of times where if your opponent clears your board, you can go, okay, I'll play out a Gobbly or a Gabu or a Labra or something. This play out, grab back a Dober or something, or this, and then go Protoform Dober and then just make a whole new stack. And it's really insane. So this card definitely MVP. So that's the deck list. If you're interested in the matchup spread, it's looking something like this. So during Swiss, this was 9 rounds. And so I played Mirage, which was actually Zenitsu, shout out to him. Magna X, a Mirage Galaxy, purple yellow hybrid. This build was really weird. I actually tied into this, so I was win 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 tie. So my general thoughts about Mirage. Let's kind of just break this down in case you're interested about the matchup and how I felt about them. Mirage is pretty close. I think it's pretty 50-50. Like this game, I'm pretty sure was a 2-1 for me. It wasn't like huge in my favor. Because if they can get set up and floodgate you early, it's pretty difficult for you to deal with a Madoki and a Siako, or just a Madoki if you've only seen boost, or a Siako if you've only seen training. So it just really depends on the board state, how fast your opponent's getting to the Mirage. Because then, okay, Mirage can be really detrimental if you don't have like a Ghazi. But if, for example, you can promote and go Protoform, Cerbex, Ghazi, then okay, you don't care. And that happened a couple times where I was able to do that and then Levia and clear the board. But it really just depends on the board state and who's able to set up more quickly. Mirage Galaxy, I think, was a little bit easier just because in my opinion, regular Mirage, pure blue Mirage, is much more streamlined. This build was playing Ryugumons, a couple level 7 aces, a little bit more of the spicy techs and stuff like the Hexablow, but Hex doesn't do anything for me. I don't care about that card. So this was a little bit easier, being able to get rid of that. Ghazi hurts them a little bit more. They can't really out it until they go to their level 5, whereas Mirage can out it as soon as they go into a 4 and still gain the memory. Magnamon is a really, really hard matchup. So this was, I'm pretty sure Magna was also 2-1. So it's Magna, it's like, right, you literally cannot remove Magna X. There's really one of two things you can do. You can either ignore it and then just try to punch them hard enough, but the problem is like your guys are only 13, 14, and Magna is on average as base 12, I'm pretty sure, so 16 with the egg. So you need Lotmon X, which, I mean, that's why it's there. It's one of the reasons why it's there. So you can actually push damage, they won't block, or maybe if they do block, their armor purge, and you're fine with that because then you'll be able to clear it the following turn. Or they need another Magnamon X to do anything. The other way is to just, and my favorite way is just to expand your board as much as possible, because we recognize that Magna, as broken as the card itself is, the surrounding support, the only way they're really removing things is the ST Magna by bouncing something, or like a Heaven's Judgment. So if you're able to see Anubis early, see your Cerberusmon X's, play out your Ghazis, floodgate them, prevent them from getting value off their blinding rays, and then just kind of expand a board. Maybe, set up a Psychmon in case you're scared of Death X, but I'm personally not too scared of Death X most of the time, because I think people have really been not playing it that much, or at least I don't really respect it until it happens to me. And then if it happens to me, all right, okay, like let's adjust our game plan. But yeah, so that's my other game plan, is like expanding your boards, trying to set up blockers. So Dobermon, for example, is really good because of that. Either hard playing it, playing off Anubis, digivolving it, playing a Cerberusmon rookie, or a rookie off Cerberusmon, digivolving into Dober off of that. Blocking them, and then in that sense they have to have blinding ray, because otherwise you block, you deny them the security check, and then they won't be able to trigger their protection, and then next turn you can kind of clean up the board. Blocker retail is even better, because then they're forced to burn an armor purge on that, and then now they're just down to a regular Magna. So Magna, pretty tough, but definitely not unwinnable. Lord Knight X is a tech that I would recommend if maybe your local scene has a lot of Magna, or it also in general just simplifies the board state. Like, you need to do a lot of maneuvering to deal with Magna, but Lord Knight X sometimes can just save you time, and in a tournament that does count for something. Because collision, de-digivolving is just really, really good. I mean, obviously the digivolve in the case of Magna X wouldn't affect it, but then they can't digivolve effect would, so then next turn, for example, maybe they couldn't go into a level 7, like a Ruin Mode or a Blitzomni or something. But yeah, just the collision is really huge, because you can swing 2 times with like a Cerbex Alliance, get really big, and then just force the armor purge. So if you want to include that, I think it's a good call for Magna, as well as Angels, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And then yeah, purple yellow hybrid I tied into. I think I should just scoop game 1. It was taking too long and I was a little bit behind. I should just recognize I was behind. And then we just had a grindy game 2. It happens. His build was more control focused. He's playing like Shadow Seraphis and whatnot. And then black base Doru, this was Ben, shout out to him. He's really, really cool. first time meeting him. His deck was really scary. The one, I mean, I don't know if you would call this a bad matchup, but I guess the one thing that's bad for him is like Dorumon is a really good rookie, and he was a god, and all saw Doru Kosuke like pretty early, and it prevents you from leaving the battle area except by deletion, and all my deck does is delete. So that I literally didn't care about his protection. The only protection I cared about was like the Dex line and trash. So but that's a really grindy matchup. That one went to game three. And I like barely won with that one. Like, he played it really well, very knowledgeable with the deck. And so yeah, Doru, I was not expecting to see, and I'll actually get back to it. I actually played another Doru in Top Cut. But my recommendation, if you do end up playing into Doru, was I think you just need to trade stacks, and you need to kind of grind them and prevent them from doing as much damage to you until you find an OTK line, and then just go for that. Because typically 90% of the times they don't really play security bombs. They'll play a ruin here and there. So if you can get the Lotmon X buff, that's nice. But if you're able to just clean up board after grinding them out, then you can set up an OTK. And occasionally you can also just deck them out because they cycle a lot. And you have ways to prevent you from decking out, but if they're not unscrambled, they don't. So there's that. But yeah, so Doru really good. Angels is probably your hardest matchup, I think. Just in general, this was my first loss of the day. Game one, I just bricked, so that was a little bit out of my control. Game two, I definitely misplayed big time, and I deserved that loss because of that. And that's where another instance of Lord Knight X being really good. It would come in handy a lot there. Just because of the fact that you have the Digivolve, you have Collision, and you're able to clean up board much better. But I don't think it's necessarily necessary. The loss then was just because it was a really complicated board state, and I only had a limited time to make a bunch of decisions, and I could have played it a little bit slower, but I got greedy. Again, Mirage, this time, I lost just because he's able to set up floodgates and OTK just really early. Bugs was really interesting. I'm somewhat knowledgeable on it because I played Bugs in set 16, but this was also playing like the Shivamon stuff and like the new Mega Kabuterimon promo one. So it took a little bit of learning, but you have options, so you're fundamentally fine into them. You're able to just discard your 7th Lightnings, Digivolve Levia X, and clear their Tyrant pretty easily. And you control their board with their Izzies and their rookies and whatnot. So yeah, it was pretty good. It was a little bit scary, but I think ultimately is fine. Biting Crush is also really good versus Tyrant, because if they Digivolve it while it's unsuspended and they play something, then you can immediately Biting Crush and kill the Tyrant and the other guy. And then the last the round of Swiss was going to be Lord Knight. This was just pure Lord Knight. He wasn't on a Levia package. And this is definitely favored for me because I have Biting Crush and he doesn't. I don't want to say that's all it come down to. You need to be a bit careful. Sometimes they can just randomly OTK you out of nowhere. So I think for this one, you just have to kind of play it by ear, react to them. You can clean up board pretty easily with a Levia because their main combo is like, okay, go Cerbex, play body, and then maybe Lord Knight, play body. And if you've got like Levia X, you can clear up their board. Or even if you just go like early on, like you set up before them, if you put up a Levia X, maybe a 7th Lightning or a Biting Crush, and you just promote like a Cerberus X, and you have that there, as soon as they play something off the Lord Knight, you can kind of just destroy them. So that was Swiss. That was really tough tournament. Really cool opponents. Top cut was going to be round one. My buddy Eddie. He's playing purple base Doru. So a very different playstyle than Ben's black base. Cycles a bit more, a little bit faster in some ways, but a little bit lacking in utility in others. It doesn't have as much access to like the Megadramon inherited, right? You don't have to Digivolve. He wasn't but he was playing like Helluga, for example, to be able to cycle and pop things, and that was just a really good kill spell. And then obviously, like being purple, he gets like better values off like the analogs, and he has the egg that lets you recur stuff from trash. So that was a really close one. Again, similar to the other one, just trading stacks, just grinding each other out, setting up an OTK line. And then round two was Purple Hybrid APOC. Shout out to Gaia Force Gaming Tyler. We actually played on stream. So if you go to the Orlando Card Fest stream, I'm sure you can find that. It was a really fun game. Tyler's a great guy, really skilled player, and so his deck was really scary. Purple Hybrid, I approached this in the way where obviously you want to control their tamers, but you really rely on things like Gazimon and just floodgating them. For example, there was a couple turns against Tyler where I was just able to go like, okay, Cerberus X, do some cycles, maybe play out a Gazi, and then just continuously choking him to one, because I know that without a memory tamer or without the 4-cost Koichi, there is no way they can do this. I know. Well, I also like Topko was open deckless. I don't know if I mentioned that. So he wasn't playing Death Claws or anything. The only ways he could out this was Death Slinger, and that's pretty common for most builds of purple hybrids. Pretty much their only ways to clear this is either to Dusk Velger or to Death Slinger. So if you choke them to one with this, it really limits their plays. And so my goal for a purple hybrid is I pretty much never swing into security until like the last turn, until I'm OTKing them, because I don't ever. They have so many security mobs. They have Jackreds, they have Rival Barrages, they have 10 different tamers. I really don't want to give them any of that value. I really only swing once I've got maybe a Levia X setup in trash, so I can punish any tamers that come out of security, and then also getting a lethal line off of that. Or I'm able to, yeah, like just basically setting up an OTK. And that's kind of what I did with Tyler, was just kind of slowly building out my board slowly while hindering what he can do until I can force a play or until he gives me enough memory to where I can just OTK him. That's kind of my main strategy. Now his build was a little bit unstandard because he's playing Apocalypse, but that's kind of the general strategy against purple hybrid. Mirage, again, nothing. This was just a pretty standard list. Shout out to my buddy Nick there. The semifinals was another purple hybrid. This one was a more standard build. He wasn't playing Merva, but he was playing just like, it was just purple hybrid mill aggro. And so again, my strategy was similar there. It was a little bit more difficult just because he's a little bit faster. Tyler's build wasn't playing any memory boosts, but he was playing like analogs, but he was also playing like the Dark Masters, which are pseudo bricks. Whereas this build was just all like Koichis and missed memory boosts and Ukos and just cycling through your deck and trying to aggro your opponents. So I think I won this one 2-1. I had 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, 2-1. And then at the final 7 Demon Lords, my thoughts on this were initially, right, like, I think on paper it's favored for me, right, because Biting Crush plus Levia is like almost a win button, like on paper it is, but it's not really, right? And there's a couple reasons for that. So number one, right, like game one, I was able to do this very early, and that put me in a good spot, because what this essentially means, if you've got Biting Crush Levia, and of course you've got to watch the field to make sure you're not going over the amount of Digimon as they are, but what this means is basically during your turn, you can do whatever you want and they cannot stop you. And what I mean by this is, like, let's say, and there were some instances of this, as let's say my opponent's got Biting Crush, and they've got like their own Levia, okay? And then let's say I go like, I'm going like Digivolve Cerberus X, and then I go play out a Rookie by an effect. Okay, so then my opponent, I'd get this on play, of course. My opponent would be like, okay, well, I want to trigger Biting Crush to play out the Levia. Since this was played by an effect, his on play and Biting Crush trigger at the same time, but since it's my turn, I trigger this, playing Levia. This effect is now the news trigger on play, delete this. Since this has now left the field, his on play won't trigger. So they've effectively wasted their Biting Crush. I've got a Levia on field, I gain a memory off that. All my guys are safe. So that's kind of the main strategy I was going into playing Demon Lords. I want to set up a Biting Crush early. The other thing it lets you do is, of course, prevent you from getting Ogudo. So you effectively have infinite time, because anytime they will go, I don't have an Ogudamon on me, but let's say this is the Ogudamon here, they'll go, oh, end of opponent's turn, egg trash, play Ogudamon. Then you can just obviously Biting Crush, do this, pop, and you win the game because they have no more resources. Now, my opponent was really good, so obviously I didn't think that was going to happen, because what oftentimes they do is, if you do that, their condition to win is going to be playing Belphemon Sleep Mode to make itself immune, and then Digivolving an Ogudamon over it. And my opponent even told me, I forget which game, but he told me there was one game where he had an Ogudamon in hand, like he was just holding it in case that happened, because he knows that this stops Ogudamon, so he has to find a different way to do that. But so, number one, you want to get this set up early, which unfortunately I had bottom decked it in game 2 and 3. And then the other, obviously, like very, very good card into this matchup is going to be Psychmon. And this was the MVP game one. Unfortunately, I was in security game two. And I think you can look on stream. There was even a time where I'm pretty sure he Lucamon Chaosmon me, Lucamon Chaos moded me. And I wanted to trash my security because I was pretty sure it was in there, and I wanted to get it off so I could bring it back, but I didn't get to it. But this is really insane because number one is recurable. If they do get rid of it, and I knew my opponent wasn't playing Porcupamon, so basically the only way you could get rid of it was like slamming a creepy or something. And so you can recur it easily off of things like your Cerberusmon X or off of your Dragomon, forcing them to play Lucamon, and then you play Psychmon, or of course off of the one of Anubis, wherever he is what I did game one, and that's kind of the strategy you want to do, is just kind of, if you do see Psychmon, or you really want to just cycle until you can get to this, and just sit on it, and then keep just accumulating advantage until you can win the game. But sometimes it just doesn't work out like that because I didn't see him, and of course I'm only playing one, so maybe going forward, if you're expecting a lot of Demon Lord, which I think now because it won nationals you might be, so maybe playing more Psych, but the problem is it's just not like that amazing into like a ton of other stuff. Like today, or when I played the event, the really only other time it ever came up was against bugs, because Tyrant reduces play cost. But other than that, I don't think there was any other deck where it came up, because everything either plays Digimon for free, plays Tamers for free, or they have actual like floodgate outs, whereas 7 Demon Lord in this case doesn't really have a cheap floodgate out. They can Biting Crush it, they can Creep him on it, whatever. But in game one, for example, Onion was able to out this by giving me 10, and that's totally fine, because then I have as much memory to do whatever I want. So yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts and everything on my deck list. So I don't actually know when Worlds is, as far as recording this video goes, but I'll keep you guys updated on how that goes and everything. I probably will vlog and all that good stuff, and yeah. So if you guys enjoyed this, hopefully you had fun watching the stream. If you have not seen the finals, I would highly recommend it. It is a really, really exciting game to play, and so hopefully I think it was exciting to watch as well. Went to game 3 and everything. But yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for the Leviamon deck list. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.